Yes, welcome everyone to the December 5th Government Relations and Communications Committee meeting. Let's begin with introductions and administrative remarks.
Yes, welcome everyone. So, as you can see from our student representative, Jack Hughes, we have some good news, particularly for one committee member who's not with us. Well, he's with us, but not here. He has been, as we all know, he has been asking for some time to have the student representative and the teacher representative have their own names on their nameplates, and our high school technology class actually made them, and here they are. So thanks to the high school, and mission accomplished. On to questions from the public. Two questions have the answer. The first has to do with the Verizon. Rad TV not working on Verizon. I do understand that this is an issue, but I've yet to have the chance to coordinate it with our technology department and our TV studio to do an investigation. So we'll follow up ASAP to look into what's going on with Verizon and our channel. The public communications survey. There's a question about the timeline on this. So, in thinking about the best way to gather our thoughts, the thoughts from our non-parents, I should say non-district parents and taxpayers, one of the assumptions we make is that they don't tune into our typical communication outlets like the reader and the website. So, to reach those stakeholders, we're really going to have to think of a strategic marketing, promotional, publicity campaign to that's going to require some thought and some maybe an expenditure if we want to do a mailer or something like that to reach the members of the public that don't tune into our newsletters, etc. So that's going to take some time to create that. And this project that we're doing, this communications audit, really started with the communications survey in the spring. So we could look at it like the project is in different stages. And right now, hey Chuck. We were just saying, Chuck, that we got the nameplates that you've been asking for so long. They have arrived. So, yes. So, we're still responding really to the results that came back from that parent and staff survey. And that's taking time. And I went over some of the steps we've taken in the time since that survey at a recent meeting that we've held here. And then also the technology study that's going on right now, kind of uninspectedly, but in a good way, uncover other things that are going on with communications, particularly between our parents and our teachers, that we need to focus on too and get those in order. So what I'm saying is we want to do it right, the public communication survey. So what I want to do is look at our communications schedule over the next couple months, look at the resources that we're going to be expending on certain projects, and be able to come back next meeting with a realistic timeline on getting that project, which is a priority for us, done. So wanted to make sure that we had those two updates, and that's all that I have.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Petiti. And at this point, let's see if there's any public comments.
Judy Sherry, Governor Circle, Newtown Square. It's still just not clear to me why we have a educational channel that can be viewed in our township and other townships, and it's not working. So this has been a very long time for it not to be working, and I'm looking forward to having it fixed. Because really it's a resource that the school district has and should want to use to reach out to people in the community that may or may not have children in the schools. And it's a shame not to use it. And my other comment is related to the last election, and this is the comment. When the board votes to use taxpayers' resources and school district personnel to wage a campaign against a proposed piece of legislation as they did in the last election, why can't they also use taxpayers' resources and school district personnel to oppose political candidates? And I know that the referendum may not have been partisan, but it certainly was political. So it just seems to me that once you start doing something like that, where do you stop? Where's the absolute stopping point? We have a policy that specifies, I guess, not supporting candidates, but it seems like that could be changed. And I just wonder if this really is something that the School Boards Association agrees with, that this is what boards should do with public money and a decision by the board. So I'd be curious to know what the School Boards Association feels about using the public money to, I know that they're opposed to the actual referendum, but how do you go about opposing it? Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Cindy Spurtle, 106 Valley Forge Terrace, Wayne. In going over the questions that Mr. Petiti addressed from the last meeting, still an issue is the Silverlight issue of the streaming, and wondering how difficult that is to address.
That's on our agenda.
Yes. Oh, is that the live streaming update that you're going to
Yes.
give us later on? That's the Silverlight. All right. And the public communication survey, my question, I guess, is it may not have to cost money. I'm notified every week when you send out the weekly email, communication email. That might be the best way to notify the public, is make sure they're all on the email list. I believe I registered for email to be sent, so when you send out the weekly communication to all the parents, I'm not a parent, but I'm a resident and I get it, so that might be a possibility. Rather than having, I don't think we have to spend money to communicate to the public. Hopefully, we don't have to add more to the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment? Nope. Okay. Can we have an approval of minutes? Did everybody review the minutes? And we have a motion to approve them? Okay. Let's consider the minutes approved and move into agenda item number 1, which is the live streaming update, the long-awaited live streaming, comprehensive live streaming update.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so in the time since our last meeting, I've had a chance to work with Dr. Byron McCook, our Director of Technology, and really take a deeper dive, I guess, into what's happening here. And part of that involved a conference call with MediaCast, which a lot of people's eyes are going to glaze over, I have a feeling, during part of this, because there's a lot of technical stuff that I'm going to try to explain without causing your eyes to glaze over. So MediaCast is the company that supplies that unit back there, which is what kind of broadcasts these meetings. And Silverlight is a software program that Microsoft owns that some video streaming services use to show their meetings on the internet. Okay, so they're two separate things. So Byron and I talk with the MediaCast people, who are the ones that run our kind of hardware, and the DCIU, which is a long story, but the DCIU is the Delaware County Intermediate Unit, is also involved with storing our videos and helping us with the streaming component. Turns out that there is a fix, a quick fix, relatively quick fix, the DCIU is currently working on to fix the Silverlight situation. There can be a software update that can be made that will no longer require people to install Silverlight on their computers or their iPads or their iPhones to watch archived meetings. They can no longer have to do that. So the DCIU has to do that update on their end. So I believe that's supposed to be happening this month. That update will take place, and then hopefully by that point we'll be able to watch all the archived videos on the computer with no Silverlight issues. That does not resolve the streaming, live streaming. So the difference between live streaming and watching it archived is just that. It's happening live, and in archived, you're getting an old file version of that video, and you're watching it pulling from a storage somewhere. We currently don't have the proper equipment to broadcast live with the right software situation that would not enable you to have to install Silverlight. So you have to install Silverlight to see us live still. You don't have to install Silverlight to see the archived videos, because to see us live without Silverlight, we need to upgrade our hardware. Does all that make sense so far?
Yes, may I
You
ask,
wanted Dr. McCook to come forward too?
Am I on board for the most part here?
may I ask a question about
me
something you
introduce-
already said, or do you
Sure.
want me to wait till you go through the whole explanation?
Well, first let me make sure that I was kind of on the right track there, Dr. McCook.
You are, Michael. There are some issues currently, as Michael mentioned, with the current streaming, with the requirement of Silverlight. Currently, the DCIU is in the process of upgrading their equipment, and part of that upgrade is going to bring us to a new version of the MediaCast software. We're currently running version 11. Version 12 is a new version that will render streams that will be in what they call MPV4 format, which is capable of being played over any browser, so there'll be no need for any kind of plugins. So that takes care of the video on demand piece. Now, as far as the actual live streaming, there would need to be an equipment upgrade in order to change how the live streams are being rendered and then sent out. So that's something that MediaCast would have to fix for us, and it would require an upgrade in the equipment. A couple of things that are coming into the mix with this is pretty interesting, and the timing is everything, and that is that we are coming up to an end of our 3-year agreement with not only with the DCIU with MediaCast, but the DCIU is coming up to the end of their agreement with MediaCast as well too. Currently, they host all of the servers, and they actually, send out the live stream from there. So we're looking at an opportunity now to do things differently since we're coming to the end of this agreement, and it gives us a chance to look at other sources such as YouTube, to be able to not only do video on demand, but also to stream live as well.
Exactly. Thanks, Byron. So Byron mentioned YouTube, so that kind of is a good segue into what our plan is. So what we want to do is we want to give YouTube a shot, live stream from YouTube, beginning in February. That's our plan, to start trying to make it available to the public on YouTube, while also doing the MediaCast. Having the MediaCast thing still happening here, so that we can kind of see how both work during the interim before the contract is up, see how we're doing with YouTube, see the response. I do want to make a note that in this kind of beta testing phase, what we can call it for YouTube, that it might not be as dynamic of a production as it is what you see on MediaCast, because with MediaCast we have a couple different cameras, we have the ability to zoom easier, we have some different areas of perspective we can employ. With YouTube, this beta test, we're really going to have one angle that's going to be pointed at the committee table, and that's really all that the public's going to be able to see on the stream during the meetings. If they would like to see more of a dynamic thing going on, they can watch the MediaCast one in the interim. Then we hope that by the time we switch over, if we do decide to switch over, we can do some more investigating in, is there a way to do multiple camera angles, what would it take, what will we need, would there be an investment, a monetary investment in getting those different cameras we might need to kind of give that more dynamic type of production if we switch completely over to YouTube. So, but we will be using YouTube in the same time as MediaCast just to kind of do a test, and I think that should please some members of the public. I hope that find YouTube an easier thing to use and are more familiar with YouTube. They'll be able to at least tune in and see a live stream in the coming months.
Michael, if I could add too, with YouTube, we should be able to give you two views. One would be the view of the board table, and then the other view would be from a second input of any presentation, because we'd be able to have two inputs coming into the computer that would be used to do the streaming. So we should be able to still see the presentations as well too, but then switch back to the members of the board who are sitting at the board committee tables.
Yes, but there would not be, at least currently, another angle of a camera.
Right, it'll just be the one camera angle.
Well, that's a terrific update. I want to thank you both because I know you've been looking into this for quite some time. And thank you for that, not just the update, but also a tentative plan going forward to address the issue. I had a couple questions, but before I ask mine, is there anybody else on the committee who has some questions?
All right, so this may be redundant, but it used to be that the committee meetings would scroll on Channel 31 for me, which is
Verizon.
I don't know what it is on Comcast, but
Right?
so why
Oh,
is
wait. Yeah.
okay? Why is that not happening? Now I know you spoke peripherally about that, but
It's still happening. So we look at the TV is a separate, obviously, way of different output or different outlet than the internet. So our committees still broadcast online. I mean, on the TV. After they're over, we run the committee meetings on the television station. We also upload them to a dedicated on-demand channel online, where you can watch them through your browser.
okay. So when I go on it, I don't get any signal and haven't for a long time.
On Verizon.
On Verizon, is that unique to my?
No, that's what I was
whatever have to-
referencing during our admin
Yeah.
remarks, that we're having issues with Verizon, and it was drawn to my attention. I need to look into that with, technology's help and the TV studio's help. Comcast, I know, is working. So
Okay, so
that
it is just Verizon.
It is
first of
Verizon.
all.
It is just
Okay.
Verizon. Comcast, at least the last I checked, because we were having issues with Verizon. I mean, Comcast maybe a month ago or 2 months ago. It's been fixed.
So this is somewhere at Verizon. We are still doing what we always did. We're recording the meetings, and we have those things to scroll. They're prepared, but they're
course.
not on Verizon.
The signal,
the-
for some reason, is not broadcasting through Verizon. There's some sort of an issue.
Okay.
Because as far as I understand, we don't have Verizon here at the district. We
Okay.
have Comcast.
Okay.
So it's difficult for us to see what people who have Verizon subscribers see, because we don't
Okay.
have Verizon as our cable provider here.
Okay.
I know Comcast is working last I checked
Okay.
internally.
I don't watch a lot of TV, but when I have gone on in the last 2 months, this has been going on for a couple months, there is no signal for Channel 31
Okay.
at all. So, I mean, I think the least is to get that fixed and at least get the meetings streaming like they used to. I mean, I would get, what we had in place working first before I would, my opinion, worry about live streaming, because we're not even doing what we used to do. For Verizon people. And unless I'm wrong, maybe there's something wrong with my
No,
individual
you're
setup,
not,
but
you're
I'm
not
not
wrong,
getting
Ms.
it.
Solomon. It's
You're not, and nobody else. Okay.
It's a
So
Verizon.
my preference would be fix that first.
But Comcast is.
Comcast is.
Comcast is working, yes.
So, okay. So our meetings are, if you have Comcast provider and you're on your cable channel, are you seeing this committee meeting live, or you're seeing this committee meeting played back on the channel later?
So this is another thing that we should examine during our time looking at our streaming solution. In June is when the contract is up, right? June. So we don't show our committee meetings live on television. We only show them live streaming. When I say streaming, think of online. We only show them online, live. We don't show our board meetings live online. We don't stream our board meetings. We show those on TV live.
Broadcast versus streaming.
Broadcast versus, technically they're both called broadcasting, but
In the industry?
no.
Were you in?
and then when we do show our board meetings live on TV, it's not on RAD TV, it's on the Township's channel. because we're broadcasting, or because we're holding our meetings in the township's building.
Right.
Okay. So the only things we stream live online are these meetings, committee meetings.
Right, but what I'm interested is getting both of the business meeting and the committee meetings up. I'm not that interested in live anything. I'd more like to see us at least get back to where we were, where those are shown, over a period of time. You get a schedule when you can watch the business meeting, and it'll scroll at 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock and whatever, and people can watch it if they want to.
I'd like to clarify, that's happening. That is happening. You're
But-
just not seeing it because you have Verizon.
Okay,
So there's an issue with Verizon.
right, okay.
We're showing them. Comcast people are seeing them. There's a
Yeah.
schedule 1, 4, 6, something, whatever it is.
Right,
You're just not seeing it because
Right,
your
okay.
Verizon's down.
right, okay.
I just wanted to let you know that I am seeing it because
Your Comcast.
I'm
Comcast, so,
Thank you.
and it really looks good.
And you didn't invite me over to watch it?
No,
We can, though. I'm Comcast, too. Jack, do you have any comments, feedback?
Well, I think that, I think that YouTube would be a great thing to move ahead with because it's a lot more user friendly and accessible by anyone with an iPad or an iPhone. So, yeah.
Thank you.
And Jack, that's what, your comments and listening to this make me wonder. And I hope no one in my previous district hears me say this because I was pushing for years for the cable channels, which they didn't have the ability, and I'm going back over the last 15 years, even 20 years, with the cable channels. But with the changes in technology now with YouTube, I guess I question if YouTube, we had a resident come, I think 2 months ago to a meeting and said that, it is simpler now to broadcast to YouTube, both to have it streamed, the actual meeting live, and also the archives of the meetings. If this is a viable solution, and as people now are looking at, maybe they can, there are discussions that are people that are setting up their TVs without having to pay for Comcast or Verizon. There's a big change going on in the industry, I believe, right now, and there's people who are realizing, with the streaming, if we can more efficiently and cheaper do YouTube, that might be an advantage for us. I realize that we can't control whatever's going on Verizon. We can't necessarily control. There sounds like there's an added expense and added steps to get out to the channels. That is creating some of these issues with us. But for us to broadcast YouTube, that's something we could do with a camera. But the change would be we wouldn't have all of these cameras possibly working in unison. That would something that we have to develop over time with YouTube. YouTube would be looking at just 2 inputs. Okay. I mean, that makes sense to me. I do think that makes sense in the world we're living in. I mean, I think the biggest issue I'm hearing from community members is they want to go back and look at the meetings, and it's the challenge to find and look at them, and that if they're on YouTube, there is some ease with that. Is that accurate?
Well, it is currently, but when the update happens with the DCIU, and we were just discussing the software update, that archiving, looking at the older meetings, will become just like on YouTube. Well, not just like on YouTube, obviously, different interface, but you'll have that same kind of as ease of use as you do on YouTube.
Yeah, but if I can add to one of the challenges that we will have, and that's if the DCIU does not renew an agreement with MediaCast, and if we wanted to stay with MediaCast, then we're going to need to acquire the equipment and bring it in-house. That'll be the streaming servers, the encoders, all of those things that the DCIU currently has. We'd have to purchase or bring it in-house so that we can now move our content from the DCIU to Radnor, and then begin to provide the service, here that the DCIU currently provides for us. So that'll be another challenge if the DCIU does not renew with MediaCast.
Right. So I'm seeing the idea that there will be some costs, I'm sure, involved with YouTube, with setting up the camera and the laptop, but it sounds minimal cost. I'm seeing if we want to try to continue with either MediaCast or in order to get to the TV channel, we may need something like MediaCast, and I'm seeing that's additional dollars. I know
Am I allowed to ask this? Who is your liaison down there? Do you have a committee of tech people that meet down there? And
We actually meet monthly at the DCIU. It's all of the technology directors across the county. Afraid to say, but I'll say it. I mean, we're down to it's just us and one other district that currently still, is using the MediaCast streaming through the DCIU. So, that may raise some issue as to the viability of the DCIU continuing in this direction.
so will they be able to give you an update before June if they're going to do this? Do you expect that they'll have that analysis completed?
Yes, I'm in contact with their technology director now, and they're currently assessing it. What they are doing for us, because we are under agreement with them right now until June 30th, they did upgrade their servers. They added more memory. They added more storage that's needed because all of the historical files that we have are now going to be, upgraded so that they can play in what's called the HTML5 format, which is which will actually play on any browser, which is going to take care of that Silverlight issue that's been bugging many of us. So that's happening now anyway because we're under contract. So they're going to do that. So the question is, after June 30th, is it still a viable option for them to provide that service? And so they're assessing that right now. I'm pushing for an answer, hopefully no later than the end of next month, I would hope, because we need to make a decision on moving forward. And if we are, I'd like to see our testing begin as early as February or March so that we can begin moving into the direction that we need to.
I just have a question about archiving. If we go to YouTube, how is that then archived?
So the thing with YouTube, and I think this is what steered us in the direction of MediaCast, was because we don't have any real control over what YouTube decides to do.
Right.
And we wanted MediaCast because we knew we're paying a service and we're paying them to store it. We're paying for technical support if we need it or troubleshooting. There is, with YouTube, you can store. People have channels. That's what we have. As a district, we have a YouTube channel, and your channel can have thousands of videos, countless videos. No, not countless, but many. Mm-hmm. I don't know for a fact if there's a limit. Jack, would you know as a more plugged into that type of stuff, maybe?
You're-
Okay. So I can look into it and see what that might be, but we can always, and this is something we could discuss, with the technology department, we might need to have a separate kind of smaller storage tower or something where we would be able to store our stuff internally so that we have a dedicated storage unit for all of our videos, and then we don't have to archive every single one on YouTube. If somebody wants them, we can pull it from that, our storage, and they could rent it or
Now the
watch it.
videos are actually not the legal documentation of our board meetings. So the minutes are, which we approve. So we do not have to, and I'm not saying not to store them, but we may look at length of time that we're storing so that we don't have. I don't know.
Madam, it's a very astute
20
point because
years.
we talked about part of this discussion being, do we determine a kind of cutoff? When
Right,
is it
right.
that we say we keep videos back till this year, and then we don't keep them any longer?
Right.
It's a discussion we can have.
Because I went back and looked at one of the videos from when I first started, and I had hair. It was very disturbing.
Well done.
Oh, there's so many comments I think we all are thinking about. So just to redirect us for a moment to. So what I'm hearing from the two of you is that if we go to YouTube, and we could try to run a dual platform in February, which you're suggesting, we could also look to go to YouTube in February. With YouTube, we would get not only the streaming at the time of the meeting, we would get the easier access to the archived meetings. The downside will be, in the beginning, and we would see how long would be that we would have reduced camera angles. We would be looking at, as we begin that. But I feel like that what I'm hearing from the community, solving those first two pieces would be very beneficial, moving to a YouTube platform. And we'd have to maybe that other camera angle, you might not know that you don't have hair, Mr. Madden, you might not.
I have two questions. One is, I thought I heard Michael say that with the DCIU's Silverlight update, we would be able to see archived videos on all devices, because we haven't been able to see them on iPads and iPhones. Did I hear that correctly, that now even on iPads and iPhones you'd be able to see archived meetings?
Yes.
Not live streamed, but archived. Okay.
That's what they're telling us.
Okay. And in terms of the YouTube experiment in February, I think we're looking for some feedback on that, right? That's why we're doing it. So have we thought of some kind of communication to let people know that we're going to be doing this and to tune in, so that and give them maybe an email address where they can write in their feedback on what their experience was?
Sure.
Okay, so maybe in the Radnor Reader or on the website, or saying why we're doing this experiment, and please tune in and give us your feedback. That would be great.
Sure.
I also just want to recap before we move on that it sounds like we have some issues that are going to carry over for discussion in January. One being the functionality of Verizon. We could probably get an update on that for January, the Verizon functionality issue for our January meeting, possibly. Okay. And maybe we could revisit this quickly in admin remarks, this particular issue, just to remind people that, let us know for sure that this experiment's going on and how we're letting people know about it. And the public communications survey plan, you seem to allude that maybe in January you would have a better sense of how you might roll out with that. And I think, while we're talking about that quickly, I think I just wanted to clarify something that someone in the public said, which is that in order to get everybody's email address so that they could subscribe to the Radnor Reader, we need to reach them in the absence of having their email address. So we will need to mail something in all likelihood, or call, which I don't think is realistic, but we need to get something out to our entire community, letting them know how they can access information about the school district. So I just wanted to put that out there as the challenge is reaching those people who don't know. Second public comment, we can talk about it some more, but I just wanted to ask if I understood that correctly.
That's my thoughts exactly.
Okay. So thank you both for all of that work on this, and it's exciting to know that we're coming to some sort of resolution of it, so that anybody who wants to watch our meetings can watch them relatively easily. Thank you, Byron. And so, all right, let's move on quickly because we're approaching the 8 o'clock hour. The next thing on our agenda is the release of the Pennsylvania State Board of Education report on Holocaust, genocide, and human rights violation instruction. And you may ask, why is that on a GRCC agenda as opposed to a curriculum committee agenda? And the answer is that because this State Board of Education report was mandated by state legislation, Act 70, that was signed into law by Governor Corbett in 2014. So, and also because the State Board of Education is a governmental agency. So part of this does fall within government. And so the report was issued just subsequent to our last GRCC meeting. So we thought it was important to bring awareness of this report to the community because it does impact our school district. And we're going to try to be very circumscribed in these comments to the GRCC purview. And if there are questions that spill over into curriculum beyond what we have to provide, we are happy to refer this from here on out to the curriculum committee. But anyway, Act 70 of 2014, just to give you a quick summary of it, was signed into law by Governor Corbett, encouraging school entities to offer instruction in the Holocaust, genocide, and human rights violations. The act also directed the the Pennsylvania Department of Education to develop curriculum guidelines for such instruction and to make professional development programs available. And it also directed the State Board of Education, which is a board that works in tandem with the Pennsylvania Department of Education. It has about 20 members on it, and 17 of them are appointed by the governor. It directed the State Board of Education to conduct a study regarding the manner in which instruction in the Holocaust, genocide, and human rights violations is offered by school entities across the Commonwealth. So that report was just released by the State Board on November 9th of this year. And the sum and substance of that in general across the state was that 80% or 90% of all school entities do provide this instruction in their curriculum. So that was the very, very short answer to this report. Specific to the Radnor Township School District, for those of you who may be wondering how this impacts on Radnor, I had a conversation with our social studies curriculum director, Jim Kearney, and he gave me the following information. In response to this act, 70, Radnor Township School District's written curriculum for English, language arts, and social studies was reviewed. Subsequently, it was determined that students were primarily taught about the Holocaust in grade 8 when reading The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, in grade 10 when reading Night by Elie Wiesel, and in advanced placement European history. The district noticed a gap given that was where it was taught, and wrote the topics of Holocaust, genocide, and human rights violations directly into the 10th grade World Studies and Global Issues curriculum. In November 2015, Radnor High School social studies and English teachers received training on Holocaust education in accordance with Act 70. During the trainings, Ms. Elaine Culbertson used the story of her family's experience in the Holocaust as the basis for a presentation on developmentally appropriate and morally responsible pedagogy. She engaged the group in discussion and shared resources that teachers can use with their students. Ms. Culbertson has an extensive background in Holocaust education, and at the time of her presentation was chair of the Pennsylvania Holocaust Education Council and program director for the Holocaust and Jewish Resistance Teachers Program. As I mentioned before, Act 70 also required the State Board to conduct a survey of school entities in Pennsylvania regarding how they offer instruction in the Holocaust, genocide, and human rights violations, and Radnor Township School District completed that survey in April 2017. So I just wanted to bring that full circle so we know the impact of that legislation on a state level and then also specific to our district. Also wanted to mention that, interestingly, social studies is in the audit phase of its curriculum cycle this year. So Mr. Kearney said that anybody who has any questions about that instruction could participate in the social studies curriculum survey that will come out sometime in the near future. So does anybody on the committee have any comments? Jack, do you want to make a suggestion as feedback as a student, or?
Well, I think we just primarily learn about the Holocaust. I know we went over last year the Rwandan genocide. Yeah.
Okay, so your evidence of that curriculum being in place, yeah?
I guess my question would be, you had said that the state is coming up with some kind of a curriculum for it?
The state
Develop something?
The state already did for those districts. This was a 3-year process, so the act was enacted or went into effect in 2014,
Okay.
and since then, the department came up with curriculum guides and such for districts that needed them. It did an audit and a study in 2016, and a report on the audit came out past November. Are we in November? No, we're December. Last month, the
Okay.
report came out.
Would we be able to get a copy of that curriculum that the state put together? I'd just like to see that, that's all. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. So anyway, moving on to the next thing, again, just continuing on with the State Board of Education, just wanted to bring to everyone's awareness that There is an opportunity for student representation to the State Board of Education, the Pennsylvania State Board of Education. It changed its bylaws in May of 2008 to incorporate student representation on the board in a non-voting capacity. This includes one senior student member and one junior student member on both the Council of Basic Education and Council of Higher Education. These positions for student representatives will provide Pennsylvania high school and college students with an unprecedented opportunity to interact with the 21 adult board members and to help shape long-term education policy for the 1.8 million pre-K through 12th grade students in our state and the nearly 800,000 students impacted by our higher education institutions. Student members must attend and participate in board meetings, advise and consult with the board, and adhere to board regulations. So I have contact information. I have shared this with the high school, and I believe Ms. Pearsall, who is in charge of student government, but I just thought it was worth mentioning, as long as we were talking about the activities of the State Board of Education, to let you know that there is a but seemingly very valuable student internship opportunity out there, and if you want more information about it, please feel free to contact me or Mr. Bechtold or Ms. Pearsall, and we will, those positions I think come up it says, I think it comes up every year. I think it's an annual position. So great on the college resume and all kinds of things. Okay, anybody on the committee have any questions about that? No? Okay. And the last, one of the last items on our agenda is civics education legislation that we wanted to revisit quickly because it came up at the very end of our meeting, I believe, last time, and there's been more chatter about it in the media. As recently as 2 days ago, there was an article put out about this legislation, and this bill, Senate Bill 723, would require schools to provide instruction related to the content of the 100-question civics test used by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, and then administer that specific test to students in grades 7 through 12, at least once. This bill also, in November, was introduced earlier this year, but it was amended significantly in November to remove the graduation requirement. So I want to be clear that at this point in time, this is not meant to be a graduation requirement, but what I think is written into the bill at the moment is that they want to audit how this civics curriculum specific to the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service test is being integrated into the curriculum and how students are faring on this test. It seems like they're monitoring it. And again, I went to Mr. Kearney to ask him what impact legislation like this could have on our district because, again, we're bringing it up within the purview of government relations because this is pending legislation, but it also crosses over into curriculum. And Mr. Kearney said that the Radnor Township School District secondary course is best aligned with the content of this United States Citizenship and Immigration Service test are in 8th grade U.S. history through Reconstruction and 9th grade U.S. government and economics. A portion of the civics test also assesses factual knowledge about more recent American history, which is taught in 11th grade American Studies. The scope and depth of Radnor Township School District social studies courses currently go well beyond what is assessed by this Citizenship and Immigration Service civics test. Furthermore, students in our district are able to demonstrate their knowledge, skills, and passion to actively participate as citizens through a variety of assessments, including performance assessments. For example, one of the common assessments in 9th grade, government and economics, requires students to write a letter to a representative about an issue that is important to the student. Again, Mr. Kearney reminds everyone that social studies is in the audit phase of its curriculum cycle during this current school year, and as such, there will be a survey that comes out shortly where parents will have the opportunity to give feedback on things such as this through the social studies survey vehicle. And I just wanted to see if there are any comments or questions on the part of our committee about any of this.
I was talking to a former social studies teacher, and he told me that he used to give this test to his students at the beginning of class. Do you know anything about that, or would that be practical?
Oh, sure. I know many former social studies teachers who used to use portions of that test or used to give some parts of that, whether it was to a history course or to usually it was the government course that was traditionally taught.
Did you have something you look like, Jack, you want to have something to say?
I think the current curriculum in place.
Former teacher.
I think our current curriculum is sufficient. That we learn most of the stuff on the test, so can't hurt to take it. But
From what I've read from both advocates and critics is that I think everybody agrees that because through a variety of surveys, including the Annenberg School of Public Policy, only 25% of Americans can know more than 60% of the answers on the INS test. So that's alarming to legislators to get that kind of feedback on this. So the proponents of having the test questions be part of the curriculum and then testing the students on using that exact test, you can see why they'd want to do that. The opponents to this, the critics of it, say that that is not necessarily creating more engaged citizens, that there are other kinds of hands-on things that we can be doing other than having our students memorize facts related to American history and government functions that would increase the likelihood that the outcome that everyone wants, which is a more engaged citizenry, that there were more meaningful ways to go about those kinds of things. So those are kind of everybody agrees having a better understanding of civics for students is a good thing. The question is, what's the best way to go about that? And that's really the essence of the debate, and so we'll be following it because it's now on the Appropriations Committee table, and we'll see where it goes from here. Does anybody have any questions? Chuck has.
I will say this former social studies teacher had a conversation about this, and really the beginning of it, it's almost like a benchmark. You're just giving a piece of it or some of it, and you're allowing the students to realize what they don't know about America, what they don't know about citizenship. So it's not a test to give to see what the grade is. It's more or less raising their level of awareness, and then they might even pique their interest so that then they can participate fully. He was a brilliant guy.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. And I think to Amy's comments, I mean, I think it's a balance. You know, it's a balance. I mean, we want to know that our students have that working knowledge, that there are facts that, our students need to be able to acquire, but they also need the synthesis and the analytical skills, and we want them to dive more deeply into what do those mean as well. So, I think that it's something that we could look at, too, and discuss also just internally what are some of our practices here, which is something that kind of starts to kick it to a curriculum a little bit, but with the review going on, we can discuss with Mr. Kearney and Dr. Kearney and others about, what are some of those pieces that we are doing right now and what can we do.
And I would like to say that having student representatives on our school board committees, I think, is one of the ways where we can help implement a more meaningful civics experience and raise civics awareness. No pressure, Jack, but hopefully your civics appreciation is going up as you serve in this capacity. But more things like that where students are incentivized to have real-world engagement in addition to knowing basic content that can be classified as civics or history, I think is really important, and we probably would get better results that way. So that ends that part of the agenda. I do see here that there's the Delaware County School Board's Legislative Council. And I may be having a senior moment, but I don't remember why that's on the agenda, Mr. Petiti.
I believe you just wanted to inform the community of your role now in that group.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So anyway, I did speak at the business meeting last week about what the Delaware County School Board's Legislative Council is, and basically, there is a representative appointed from each school district in Delaware County that gets together on a monthly basis to talk about legislative issues, sort of like we do here. And I was asked to be the board liaison. I'm not sure Mr. Madden has been the liaison, and he's not anymore. I am now serving in that capacity 7:30 on Wednesday mornings in Morton, PA, and they serve good coffee. So,
They don't serve breakfast.
no, they really are hurting in the breakfast department. That is so true.
I know, they told me it was a breakfast
Yeah.
meeting. That's how they got me.
You know what? They forgot to say it's a BYO breakfast. So,
All
but,
you need is coffee.
yeah. And,
And maybe as in your role and your attendance in those committees, you could, over the next couple of months, do some follow-up to one of the public questions that there was about school boards and taking, positions on pieces of legislation and those
Good
things.
idea.
Is something that could be discussed there over the next couple of months.
good idea. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to make a note of that. So, with that said, is there any final public comment?
New business.
And new business, is there any new business?
Is there new business before public comment?
Yes.
Okay. I just have some new business. I see this ad on the bottom here.
From
about-
the handout
Yeah.
from Mr. Kearney?
It's a opportunity for educators into transforming outstanding educators into constitutional scholars. I thought this was part of what we were going to talk about, but anyway.
You know,
I
this
actually-
article did come out in 2015, so
Yeah,
I'm not
but
sure how.
I think it's still being done, because I had a member of the public of Radnor's community, and he talked to me about this. He's a Revolutionary War and a history buff.
Oh.
And he was curious if we had any of our teachers who would be interested in doing this. So maybe
Okay.
we'll just follow up and see if it's still available. And I don't know what it would take for one of our people to get the opportunity to do that, whether it's online, whether it's.
Can we say what
wherever.
you're talking about for somebody who doesn't have that in front of them? You're talking about transforming outstanding educators into constitutional scholars.
Right,
There are
yep.
fellowship awards up to $24,000 for graduate study, and
Mm-hmm.
it's recognized as the most prestigious award in constitutional history for secondary teachers through the jamesmadison.gov
Check with
organization.
Share it and see. I would love
Okay.
to be on the cutting edge of doing some of these kind of things, because now that we're moving with our new presidential leadership, she's encouraging me to move more in a curricular fashion.
All right, and with that, Chuck, we will now move to public comment.
That's a quick impact, doesn't it?
Thank you, Roberta Winters. I just wanted to commend the school board and this committee in particular, because I think people who live in Radnor are very spoiled because we do have such good communications. A lot of school boards do not have their shows, their meetings aired on television. The public is unaware of what's happening. Events are happening behind closed doors, or unless you go to a meeting and stay till midnight, you may never have a public comment. So I think, we are very fortunate, and I think you should be very proud of the efforts you're making, and as always, we can continue to improve. The other thing I wanted to mention in terms of notifying the public, I think sometimes it's appropriate for the school district to work in closer cooperation with the township, because they have a scroll that is continually going through their meetings and on their television shows. They also have a monthly or quarterly mailing that goes out to everyone in the township, and I'm sure if you asked if you could have a page to talk about it, they would probably allow you to do that. I mean, if you connect with Mr. Dolan, I'm sure he would be more than responsive to use some of that paper to send out to the public, and it should not be at any cost to the school district.
Great idea.
Also, I would like to note is, given that I am with the League of Women Voters, that we do value civic participation in a big way, and we would be more than happy to work with the school district to perhaps develop some joint projects and opportunities or incentives for students to do some actual work in local government areas or in internship positions. And I know with the internships during the summer, that's another way that students could work with the league on certain tasks and challenges. I know Chuck is familiar with many of them. We're working on things, with gerrymandering and voting machines and all those kinds of things, and encouraging people to get out to vote. There's a million things. Campaign finance reform. You can go up and down the road with the lists of things that need to be talked about in public education, in civics education around the country. So, we'd be happy to take students to visit legislators, to advocate for issues. Those are things that the League is more than happy to encourage and would be more than willing to work with the social studies people to see how we might do that in a nonpartisan way. I know the high school has some partisan committees that we've reached out to in terms of voter education and registration, but I think the League is committed to being nonpartisan, but civically engaged. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Nice offer. Is there any other public comment before we conclude for the evening? Seeing none, I have a motion to adjourn. All right. All right, terrific. Have a good night. See you in January.